Israel says it has taken control of Hamas military infrastructure in central Gaza and has killed dozens of militant fighters, while its aircraft and tanks stepped up bombardments in Khan Younis. Troops say they discovered and destroyed tunnel shafts, large quantities of weapons and found intelligence material. Now, fighting has intensified in Maghazi and Abu Rej. At least 15 people were reported killed in an Israeli strike on al-Balah. The ongoing war is set to enter its fourth month with no let-up in fighting. Hamas says more than 200 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks over the past 24 hours. The enclave's health ministry said more than 22,000 Palestinians have been killed since Israel launched its operations in Gaza on the 7th of October. Fresh rounds of rocket fire took place after Tel Aviv announced plans to pull back some troops, signaling a new phase of the war. 5 Israeli brigades involving thousands of troops will leave the enclave. The U.S. has called this a gradual shift to operations of a lower intensity. Israeli authorities, however, signaled that it was preparing for the next phase of the war, which is expected to take at least 6 months. More details now from Trent Murray, joining us live from Tel Aviv. Trent, have we further details about what's being described as Israel's next phase of the war?
Well, we are being told that the IDF has indeed begun pulling out 5 brigades worth of troops which have been operating in the north of Gaza. Now, that is because military officials here say that they now have largely established operational control over that northern portion of the Gaza Strip. And after 3 months of all-out warfare there, they want to bring some of those reservists home. But it certainly does not mean it will see a halt of the fighting more broadly. The IDF is stressing that it is going to continue to move south and concentrate its military operations around places like Khan Younis and Rafah. In fact, they believe that much of the Hamas leadership is still hiding out there, especially in the underground tunnel network, and they're continuing to push forward. We've just had a press conference from Elon Levy, who's the Israeli government spokesperson, talking about the next phase of the war, where he said that the IDF will continue to push forward with the Israeli government's military goals, which is to crush Hamas and to demilitarize the Gaza Strip. But we have seen yet more airstrikes and artillery fire in the past few hours around the south near the Rafah border crossing, and that is what has got the UN concerned that as people crowd there in shelters trying to seek safety from the fighting, they do continue to get caught up in the crossfire.
And on another front, I want to ask you if we know any more about the negotiations that are going on in Egypt and whether Hamas and Israel are any closer to reaching a new agreement.
Well, we haven't had any major updates on that front. We know there has been discussions taking place in recent days around that Egyptian-crafted ceasefire deal. It is a 3-stage framework involving everything from hostage releases to a temporary withdrawal of Israeli forces and even potential discussions around setting up a technocratic government amongst all the different Palestinian factions. Look, it is early days, but we do know that different delegations from both here and from Egypt have been shuttling back and forth to try and get a gauge, I suppose you could say, from both sides on how they feel about this framework. What we do know is that the Israeli government does maintain that while it's committed to eliminating Hamas, it does also want to get those hostages home. So we think there potentially could be some movement there. But Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister here, has said in recent days he doesn't want to build up any unrealistic expectations, but certainly he faces political pressure domestically in Israel, day 88 now of this war. And for many of those families of the hostages, they just feel like they're no closer to getting an answer on when their loved ones can come home.
Day 88 and counting. Thank you, Trent Murray, reporting from Tel Aviv.